Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Equalizer. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, really quickly, do want to apologize. I'm getting to this like 2 weeks late. Just other stuff. It kept falling to the wayside because I got to do this, but keep forgetting to do this. Putting all that aside, that's just kind of a me thing. That's not really, regardless. The fact of the matter is I went and did this episode knowing Kelly Rowland was going to be in it, but I didn't know what, because I watched something, it was like, The Equalizer featuring Kelly Rowland. I was like, ooh, in what capacity is she going to be playing herself? She playing the character? It's like, well, obviously she's playing a character very close to herself, but it's still like, oh my God, it's Kelly Rowland. That's freaking awesome. And I think it's a really interesting episode. For one, it talks about a lot, actually. Obviously, like, the whole stalkerish obsession thing that, obviously, we've sadly in real life seen that take a very nasty and deadly turn, especially when it comes to musicians. Not even just musicians, but anyone famous. We've sadly seen that, the downside to that situation. There is no upside to that, but I'm saying, like, that we've always seen a fatality type of situation. Not always, but we've seen it, and that's always a tragic situation. But Misty is retiring. Like, she's this big famous singer. She's retiring, and she wants to, just kind of live a normal life because she's been Misty for so long. She's been defined by this name, by this brand, and she just wants to be herself again. Obviously, like, her manager is not too happy about it, which Martin, I was like, what have I seen him in recently? It's like, right, I just recently rewatched Jack Ryan, season 2. He's in it. He's only in it for, like, 2 scenes and, like, 1 episode, but yeah, obviously, like, Scarf from, like, Luke Cage and stuff like that, but he's like one of those actors. I want to say he was in wasn't he an FBI agent or something in Ray Donovan in one of the earlier seasons, I think. But yeah, he's one of those actors like, you've seen him in like stuff. But putting tangents aside, he's not too happy about it. Even to the point that we end up finding it's a really sad situation all across the board when you find out like, hey, that he stole the song from Elton's mom, like paid her $500, and it's just one of those, like, yeah, you got it legally, but it was still scummy of like, you still got this song, and even though like, hey, it made all this money, it's probably not written in a contract, like, you signed the contract, you kind of you gave away all your rights to it, so you're not eligible to any like back-end deal for any of this money. It's like he's reaping all the benefits. He's even trying to keep Misty in the music industry because he's made a lot of bad investments and he's he's losing money and he needs her to kind of keep going because that's the only thing keeping him afloat. So it just shows you what kind of time Martin's on. It's like, right, you took advantage of this songwriter and now you're taking advantage of your artist, And that's also one of those things, like, not only, like, the stalkerish element of, like, someone famous, but also the aspect of, it's also commentary on, like, yeah, how, and I think it's poignant that you would have a famous, like, musician be there to be, like, not just, like, someone playing, it's, like, a famous singer playing a famous singer, but, and I think that's even more to the point, because I'm sure her and Queen Latifah will probably know that too, of like, yeah, like the music industry, like that is something that's kind of widely known, that the music industry can be very predatory in that regard and just not paying people what they are owed, or just, doing the right thing, when it comes to like the writing credits and how much someone should be paid and stuff like that. It's just not paying people what they're owed. And then there's also, to be fair, I think that's a larger conversation. Like, a lot of industries, especially in the entertainment industry, you hear kind of predatory, but like you hear that kind of, it's like, it's circling all around that a lot of industries have to deal with that. So it's interesting that they're commenting on that. Also, they dealt with, like, the commentary of, like, yeah, like, when you are famous, people are going to say the wildest things about you. It's like, do they know you? It's like, no, but I heard this about you, and this says that about you. And it's like, which I will always kind of give someone, I mean, and maybe that's the issue, because for a lot of people, it's like, oh, famous people get awful. But sometimes it's like, right, people might catch you on a bad day. They'll spin like, hey, you're not allowed to have your worst day in front of the camera because it's going to make you look terrible. But even like Harry's like, oh yeah, the tabloid, Mel's like, you're going to listen to the tabloids, Mr. Don't believe anything because the government's lying to you. He's like, yeah, but the tabloids believe in UFOs. And I'm like, okay, I love that. That's your reasoning for it. But I do love jumping around. I'm a little all over the place. Sorry, but I just thought those were interesting and poignant conversations that this episode's kind of having in that regard. And once again, the fact that you're having like Queen Latifah and Kelly Rowland on screen having those type of conversations about, because I feel like maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I feel like that's got to be. I mean, because they are two public figures where it's like your brand, who you like. It's like. Queen Latifah is known as Queen Latifah. Kelly Rowland is known as, like, it is that thing of, like, right, like, it is almost hard to escape just kind of, I don't know, I feel like there's truth in that, where it's like, when you're kind of that famous, it's like it's kind of hard to just, who are you when you've kind of known as this brand, it's by this name, like, being able to keep some of who you are, and that's probably not the easiest thing. Sometimes it's like finding that equilibrium, and sometimes want to just be like, yo, I want to leave that there, and then I want to step back, I just want to be me. And I think anyone can kind of, it's a very unique situation now. Well, I feel like not everyone could probably like comprehend that necessarily, but I don't know, I just thought that was kind of like a unique thing, and just having these two powerful icons like having that conversation, I think is actually really interesting. But I like the fact is they went undercover as like this filming crew, as like, because Misty's got burned on security in the past, so she was not too keen about this. So, and I even love Harry being like, wow, I said all I said, but he's like, honestly, she's amazing alive. He's like, do you realize how impressive you have to be to do something like that, to be like even like better alive? It's like, yeah. So he ended up being a fan at the end of the day. But I also gotta say, like, I think this kind of should be said, known without saying anything, but like Queen Latifah always looks stunning. But this episode, as like, what was her character's name? Pepper Wallace? I was like, yo, for one, I love the drip. I was like, yo, like that jacket with like that kind of tie-dyed, like yellow and like, white on that, and then like wearing the yellow underneath, and then like that shade of lipstick and the glasses. I was like, yo, like this look, Queen Latifah's, I was like, she's worn glasses before, right? I don't know why, but this particular episode, I think that those glasses really accentuate the whole look. I'm not a nerd about like costuming and stuff like that. I can be sometimes. I will have to take that back. I can be sometimes. But I was like, yo, this look, like she's really rocking and killing it. Like I said, she looks stunning all the time. But it's like this look, I was like, oh man, that's an amazing look. And it's just like, especially her in glasses, I was like, I definitely has worn glasses before, but I probably never really noticed it like I have this episode. I was like, it just, like I said, it just accentuates the entire look. And I was like, man, I'm glad she was rocking that most of the episode. I was like, oh, please don't change, because that outfit's amazing, So I also, stupidly enough, didn't realize this until the end of the episode, where Dante was like, oh, so there's something going on between the bodyguard and Misty. I was like, oh, the bodyguard. I was like, I mean, obviously, like, you could tell pretty early on that it was kind of hinting that there was a Lucas and Misty thing, but it wasn't until Dante said that I was like, oh, I didn't even draw the parallels. I was like, I feel so stupid. Obviously, the Bodyguard, the movie, obviously took place over a short amount of time. I've never actually seen the movie all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces of it. But obviously, like, Lucas has been with Misty for, like, years and stuff. That's why he's like, yeah, I know her better than anyone else. So I think that's kind of what they were kind of going for a little bit in this episode, too. But the reason why I feel so stupid for never realizing that is because, yes, I've never really seen the movie all the way through and stuff like that. But it's like, my oldest niece, I've talked about this before. My oldest niece, she's in high school. She is obsessed with Whitney. And the reason why I have to preference that is because it's like, right, like, the fact is she only recently discovered Whitney in the past few years. And I think that's such an interesting thing when it's like, right, this is someone you didn't grow up with. This is someone, sadly, like, you didn't find out about till, sadly, years after she passed, But that's what it is, that generational thing that's so interesting, where it's like, oh yeah, like, you hear people say like, oh, kids will find this out years later and stuff like that. It's like, oh, my niece she got Whitney's book. She categorizes like, oh, which are Whitney's best albums. She's seen the movie Bodyguard multiple times. That's why I'm saying I'm also feeling stupid. She was just watching it like maybe last week. So it's one of those situations where I'm like, man, that's wild. But yeah, to me, like, having been on the sidelines to that whole thing, well, actually been front and center to see, like, her Whitney obsession has been, like, the craziest thing ever. Because it's like, which is also interesting, I would have this conversation too, because my niece used to be obsessed with Beyonce, blasting Beyonce and Destiny Child, obviously Kelly Rowland. The reason why I'm bringing that up, because also Kelly Rowland being, part of Destiny Child as well. She just mentioned Kelly Rowland's name the other day too. God, serendipity. Once again, this episode was like 2 weeks ago, but still, I'm going off on a tangent. But it's just like, like I said, the serendipity of it all is just really interesting. And I did like that, though, element of, like, right, it's like, Lucas has been by your side. He's one of the only people that Misty trusts, because when he found, was like, hey, you might need to cancel, she's like, well, I don't want to let people down, but hey, if you say that it probably should happen, yeah. I was kind of, first I was like, is it going to be like Zara, the person who keeps giving her tea, is she the bad person? But then she got poisoned, I was like, oh, nope, takes her off the suspect list. There's even that guy trying to get his ex Ava back. It's like, yeah, she's getting married and we used to bond over Misty. So it's like, yeah, you sent Misty a bloody note. First and foremost, why would Misty be able to get back to you? Cause it's not like you put a return address, because he's such an obsessive person. Like, I think he's using excuses. I think it's kind of like, yeah, this guy's not, like, the fact is he's trying to win back his ex, which that could be a storyline on its own. I'm not trying to make a direct parallel. The TV show Wedding Season kind of falls in that same vein, the way he's kind of going about it. Obviously, this is like way more stalkerish in this regard. Wedding Season, it's its own thing. This is just kind of like, creepy. And it's like, right, because his obsessive brain isn't even thinking about it from a logical standpoint. I mean, logically, if you were logical, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing in the first place. You wouldn't have massive restraining orders against you. So it's kind of like, because even Dante was like, hey, it must be hard to keep them all straight. It's like, oh, I guess they filed multiple restraining orders again. Because he's like, yeah, I don't remember if those are up or not. It's like, motherfucker, don't play, So I don't know, it's just an interesting amount of stuff kind of circling around that. And it was kind of sad when she eventually found out that Robin was alive, because she was like, right, she was enjoying the conversations, like what they were doing. I even love when Mel was interviewing the band, and Harry was like, yeah, like, he kind of talked for a second, and then Mel was like, he's like, yeah, sorry. And he went back to filming and stuff like that. I thought it was kind of cute, like, while he was testing out the camera, like, who was he focused on? Mel. I thought that was him trying to be cute and everything, and be like, oh, look at this stunning beauty that is my wife. I thought that's what he's going for. But he's like, oh no, like, it's a small crew, so we all need to wear multiple hats. But she's like, oh no, that hat doesn't work with this outfit. So it's like, all right, fine, I'll get the lens I'm looking for and stuff, like the right lighting and stuff like that. But yeah, the fact is he could have focused it on anyone, but the fact is Mel's like right there, but I also felt like that was him making a point, like, oh man, look at my wife, she's so beautiful. I don't know, that's how I read that as. But I thought that was cute. But yeah, once again, like I said, this is the tragic element of this episode too, is finding out about Tommy, or rather Elton. He's the son of the woman who, like, he had tried time and time again to get Martin to do the right thing. It's like, I'll sue you. But it's like, once again, I think it's just from a legal standpoint, it's just that red tape of like, you signed this contract that is like, right, you didn't read it. No one, because even he's like, no one knew that Paradise would be what it is. It ended up launching Misty's career, and apparently she had to watch as like Misty performed it and people applauded her, and apparently she got into drugs and she died penniless. It's just, and they struggle through life, and as you're seeing this person who is living a life that should have been his mom's, and it's like, you've been playing, and it's like, right, even they were like, why wait till now? It's like, well, because that means this entire time he's been very conflicted, because he spent time with Misty, and I guess he's kind of gotten to know her, and I guess it's just like, right, he kind of feels wrong about doing, he knows it's wrong, but he's also driven by like this anger and rage, because he thought she knew about what Martin did. It's like, no, she's like, because she's like, oh, I wrote the hook, but Martin's the one who wrote the lyrics, because he's got a co-writing like thing on it. And it's like a co-writing credit, but she was like, oh, I had no idea Martin basically stole this song from your mom. It's like, once again, stole has to be put in quotes because of the legal of like, hey, she signed this contract, I paid her for it. Yes, the contract doesn't, it's probably a wiggle room of like, the contract probably didn't include anything that actually said anything about, like, I don't know whether it's like it purposely like didn't mention anything about residuals on if the song does numbers. as we would say nowadays. I don't even know if, at that point in time would they even have used the phrase do numbers. But if it was a situation, and even me saying that sounds so like antiquated to say like, oh, the song did numbers. It's like, oh, that feels so weird, even antiquated to say that. But regardless, it's once again, it's just a conversation about music and contracts. I mean, just contracts in general. You always got to be careful about that, you know, because once again, no one ever has the foresight to that. You're just like, because she was probably like, yeah, like any musician, she was, I'm a songwriter. I have this song, someone heard it, they like it, they want to buy it. And it's like, you know, $500 probably like went further back then. I mean, I don't know how far back that was. Like, because I mean, Misty, who knows like how long she's been doing it? Like, she's been doing it what, maybe like a decade or something like that. So it's not like it was that. So $500 is still $500, but even that will not stretch for a very long time. But it can, like, probably if you're struggling, then that $500 can mean a lot. It could be, you know, and it's sad that things kind of turned out this way, you know. And it's like, right, you know, luckily, Misty and Robin were able to talk Elton down because he was going to hurt her for it, because it's like, right, he was just so angry because he took out all his frustrations on her because he thought she was just as culpable as Martin, even more so because it's like, right, you in particular are living a life that should have been my mom, and my mom got addicted to drugs and spiraled, and it's just a sad tragedy of how things played out. And but luckily they were able to talk him down, and he was going to kill himself, but luckily they were able to grab him. I was like, thank goodness, you know, before things turned ugly. So luckily it all worked out. And at the very end, she's saying that she's going to do it, because she's already done like music educational programs and stuff like that, but she's doing one now in Brenda's name, Elton's mom. So they're letting it be known that yes, she's the true writer of that song too. So. But also, you know, even after, you know, this will be her last performance, but also her and Lucas, you know, it's like, right, finally them figuring things out. So I thought that in itself ultimately was a powerful element to the episode. But then there's another side of the episode where we're like, okay, things are I wanted to also, really quickly, does this technically count as like Dante and Robin's date? I don't think so. It was a performance and stuff like that, but it's like, I wouldn't count this as a date necessarily, just because it's like, because Robin was kind of dealing with some stuff at the time, and just, you know, so. But going into that, Robin's completely unaware about, and Dee's kind of glowing. She's happy. It's like, oh yeah, because even Robin's like, oh, you're walking with like more confidence. And then Vi's like, I know what's going on. I know that Mel's trading. She's like, I should. It's like, no, I get it. I'm not, once again, I even said that last episode. I was like, Vi's not going to say anything, because it's like, right, she completely understands, because neither Dee nor Rob know about what Vi's going through. Like, once again, she was trading with a gun. Like, she still hasn't told Robin that, you know, and I think that would, but I guess it's like, right, you already got a lot on your plate. I don't know if she's still actively training, but we do know she went to a shooting range and stuff like that. Sure, at least she's more prepared, and I'd assume there probably secretly is a gun in the house. I mean, well, I don't know if Robin stashes stuff at the house anymore, because it's like, right, you had Dee, well, I mean, Dee knows about everything now, so, but you probably feel better, more comfortable not having it in the house, like, even if you have it locked away and stuff like that, because kind of already went through all that with Dee before, like I was saying. But either way, Vi was like, no, I completely understand, but it's like, and even Vi was like, I know you roped Mel into this. I was like, and I think that speaks volume, because she's like, Mel didn't come to you with this. You went to Mel about it, which is the thing, which even I was kind of like, yeah, that is kind of messed up. I was like, Mel is family, like that. Mel, because even Mel was like, right, when your mom ultimately finds out, I want me to take the brunt of it, which I'm like, I get where Delilah was coming from. She was all excited and everything, but I'm also like, I don't think she really thought it through. Like, it's like, right, you're a kid, so you're going to think like, right, you'll be able to get away forever. The truth always has a way of coming out in some shape or form. But Vi was like, you need to tell your mom, or I'm going to tell her, but the truth needs to come from you, because you're the one doing something you know you shouldn't be hiding. Yes, I get you why you want to do it, but you should be doing it behind your back, and you're drawing in not only someone your mom considers her best friend, this is also like someone because this is her and Harry are the people in this world. Her, Harry, and Dante are probably the people she trusts most in this world if anything happened to look after her family. Those are the cornerstone of the people in her life, you know? and you're getting one of them to like lie to her too. So it's like, that's a and obviously it's probably been, who knows, like how long, it's probably been a couple days or something of like Delilah training with her. So, but Delilah was helping out her friend, and she tested out what she learned from Mel and broke a kid's arm. And then there were people around taking pictures or video. You're like, ooh, in that moment, because even Delilah was like, you could tell she was like, shit, there's so much video evidence right now. If I was her, I was like, please delete that, please. It's like, no one's going to delete that. Everyone's going to upload that to social media, or at least like, yo, did you see what Delilah did? Oh my God, it's going to go around. And so it's like, yeah, her mom found out. She's like, oh, I saw the video. She's like, oh, I know that hip toss. It was like, oh, she didn't. I was like, okay, I thought we're going to have the whole conversation of like, right, where'd you learn that from? And it's like, oh, we're skipping past that because she's like, I know that hip toss because Mel taught me that hip toss. And it's like, you shouldn't have done that. The fact is that you broke that kid's arm is proof that you are not ready. And so that leads to her, I guess it's like, hey, we're in the middle of a job. There's a stalker situation going on. But I was like, oh, I guess like she's taking this in better stride than I thought. Nope. She blew up at Mel at the end. And Mel's trying to tell her like, right, your daughter wants to feel safe. And she's like, yes, that's my daughter. I will be the one to decide when she is ready, not you. And it's just like, damn, like, it's like she is supposed to be family. And in that moment, it feels like it's like, because in her mind, it's like, and even Mel's like, yes, I overstepped my bounds because I'm the aunt in this situation. But it's at the end of the day, even if I'm aunt status, that's still your daughter, and I shouldn't have kept that from you. That was on me. But also Mel knew this was coming. Like, she's not as naive as Delilah, thinking like Delilah was almost kind of caught up, like, oh, it's like, no, you were just riding high, like, yeah, and completely ignoring the fact is you're lying to your mom, and she strictly forbade you from doing this. So now it's like, talking to Vi's being like, you got to understand why, like when you got taken, what it did to Delilah, it shook her to her core. Cause it's like, right, but she's not ready. It's like, is she not ready, or are you not ready? And it's like, right, she would be ready. Like, I get it. You don't, cause even Mel was trying to make this point too. It's like, right, you don't want her to grow up too quickly, because Mel's like, you and me, we chose this life. Delilah didn't. Delilah was kind of a casualty, collateral damage of like you living your life. And it's like, I get you want to protect your child, but that boat has long since sailed. It is long since sailed the moment Delilah found out about who you are. Then the moment your world, like this world bled over into your life, you got kidnapped. Because once again, but it's also because Rob feels like if she lets Delilah do that, she'll feel like, oh, I'm letting her down. Like she won't be able to live a normal life. And that's what Robin wants for her. It's like, I don't want this life for you. Because I think that's the real reason behind it. Because it's like, right, if you have to train, she feels like that means I failed as a mother and something. And I don't think it's an indictment against you. It's just like, I mean, sadly, it is what it is. And she was even kind of having that conversation with, Missy this episode about like, right, you're going to let people down inevitably, it's just, it is what it is. It's just like the way of the world, you're not going to be able to kind of please and excite everyone, but you kind of have to do what's best for you. And I mean, honestly, that's what Delilah is doing now, because she feels so unsafe. Yes, you were skillfully trained and stuff like that, but like, sadly, that didn't stop you from getting kidnapped. And like, yes, there were like extenuating circumstances to that, but it doesn't change the fact. The core fact is that Vi and Delilah were scared about like not knowing what was going to happen to you. And for them, it's like, also they felt powerless, because it's like, yes, everyone else is doing something. Dante, Harry, Mel are doing things, but me and Vi, we're sitting on the sidelines, and they don't ever want to be spectators in a situation where her life is in danger. They want to be able to do something like, and it's like, hey, maybe if we stepped up, then maybe, and it's like, that would have just gotten them hurt too, or worse, so it's a culmination of where you see where everyone's coming from. Like, no one's 100% in the wrong, because you also can't tell like Robin how to parent her child, but it's also like there's some angle of just like it's not even necessarily being wrong. It's just her being very overprotective because she doesn't want her child mixed up in this. But it's like, right, so it was only a matter of time before this blew up in their faces. I knew it, but man, that hammer came down fast in this moment. But then we also get our stinger at the end of the episode where Mel rushed off for something, and she's hunting people now because it's something related to her brother, which is something we haven't really, because it's something I've talked about before, where it's like Harry and Mel's side of their lives isn't something we've really talked about too much. Like Harry's family hasn't really come up in conversation too much about like, oh, him resurfacing. It's like, yeah, he had a friend, and then like one of Mel's best friends finding out, wait, I helped you grieve Harry, and it turns out he was alive, and but luckily they patched things up. So that's kind of what we've gotten outside of their circle when it comes to all of that stuff, but we haven't really dived into either of their family situations. And obviously Robin and Mel like have, some stuff to work on, but I think Mel's probably going to go at this alone. She might get Harry involved, but like her and Robin might not be in a good place. But I think Robin, it's like, right, we have our issues, but we can set that aside because you are family. This is your brother who needs help. And I think eventually she will understand, like, right, I get it. I was kind of being stubborn and stuck in my ways that like, I need to prepare. Because who knows if Mel's brother's even in this world? Because the fact of the matter is, Mel's brother might have gotten taken because of her, So that in itself might be the eye-opening situation that Robin needed to be made of, like, right, like, because of my line of work, because of who I am, someone could try to get to me through Delilah. So her being prepared, her being able to handle herself in those situations, that is going to come into play at some point in time, So you need to be tactically prepared. I was about to make a comparison to like Stargirl. There's some things that went down in this final season of Stargirl. Actually, it's in the final episode. Some revelations that make you go like, right, being prepared is always, a necessity. Being taught like to be prepared in a captured situation. I'll leave it at that to avoid too many spoilers or anything. But I feel like there's a direct parallel you can make in that regard. But like I said, I think this was a great episode. I think this is probably considered the winter break episode. The next episode, it was like, I looked on IMDb, it's not going to be until like February. I was like, wow. A lot of stuff is like, obviously we're entering at a time where like everything television wise is kind of slowing down. So some stuff's coming back in January. Other stuff is coming back in February. So this just happens to be one of the shows I think coming back in February. So like I said, once again, like I brought it up at the top, I do apologize for getting to this so late. Just other stuff. I'll just kind of leave it at that. Once again, that's a me issue, not a really you issue. I don't know if anyone cares, but just kind of putting that out there. So I'm very, very excited to ultimately see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.